Ray Charles, but I have a very special show for you today. Very, very special. You want to call somebody and get them on board. And of course, we have Lady Charles that's back because she was on the cover of Elite News this past week. Hello out there to Daryl Blair and to all of my media friends around the world. I need to start with some very important announcements, and I'll start with Global Women's Federation for World Peace. I am a member. They are celebrating, or we are celebrating our 30th year. Global Women's Peace Network is another part of the WFWP. And actually, you can go into WFWP.us and you see the work that we're doing around the world. So for my Phoenix friends who was on the show a couple of weeks ago, and that would be Miss Glenda Lambert from Phoenix, Arizona. And they have a group of ladies there called Streetlights. This is part of our trafficking program. This is part of our Missing Black Girls program. So Miss Lambert came down and educated us on Streetlights. This is one of our global programs, which is about missing girls of color in Dallas. I call it the Missing Black Girls. You've heard about that for the last 3 months. So I wanted you to know that in celebration of that 30th year, there will be a book coming out about the work that has been done around the world in over more than 100 nations. And I'm not sure yet, I'm going to New York, but I will keep talking about it so that you can be aware of it and log on. That's WFWP.us. Second, we've been talking about self-defense. We've been talking about, of course, missing black girls. Now we have something that you are going to love. We have something for everybody. And now we have a boxing match going on. Dallas is going to be on the world stage with boxing. I need to make one announcement. This is one of our sponsors on missing black girls and self-defense. There is a boxing match May 14th at the factory. This is the second one we've had. Now, if you're wondering why all of a sudden there is such a garage of boxing going on in Texas, it's because we have a promoter. We finally have our own promoter, an African-American promoter. We all know him. But here's the big picture. We're running down and building momentum down to the opening of a gym. It would be the Floyd Mayweather gym. Bet you know who that is. So Floyd Mayweather will be in town for the opening. Lots of activities opening up for Dallas, Texas. The fight is May 14th at the factory. Last time we had the fight, the mayor of Dallas was there, the chief of police, we had so many people there. So this year, and part of the program for boys and girls, not this year, this time we have Gloves for Greatness. Oh, wow. I'm so excited about the Gloves for Greatness would be our college students. I will say hello to Jarvis Christian College in Hawkins, Texas. I hope I got that right. And hello to the president there. They bought a bus load of young men and women to the home offices for Mayweather. We actually gave them gloves. So you can log on to kingdomconcepts.us, and you'll see their pictures. Gloves for Greatness is a Mayweather theme that is being spread across the nation. We are part of that. In fact, we will be the largest part of his franchise. So I need to take a little bit of a break. If Gabe would give me 30 seconds to round up, I'll be right back with my special guest. And you gotta meet her. She's really cute, but she's running for Congress also. I'll be right back. Thank you. Welcome to the ballot. Welcome to the ballot. We're talking about voting, and I'm reading something that I think is just absolutely apropos. Hope is on the ballot. Vote for trusted Democrat Jan Hope Hamilton for Congress. As you know, I do not get involved in politics because I may have some derogatory things to express. But one of the most important things about this particular race is that Eddie Bernice Johnson, our congresswoman for several decades now, is going to leave. She is not going to run again. You have heard that news. We have had a primary. We've had a Democratic primary. We have had a Republican primary. And I'm going to actually bring both of them on the show. But for the Democrats and for Washington, we are voting for Jan Hope Hamilton. She's right here today on the Ester Davis Show. There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, hi, how are you?
I am doing well. I'm so happy to be here with you both. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me. So nice to be here with you as well.
Oh, yes,
Right.
a pleasure.
And you just said the magic words, thanks for inviting me and thanks for having me. And I'll just shoot right at you. Why do we have candidates that don't want to show up, Jan?
Well, there may be some things that they don't want to talk about.
But that's not American politics. That's not the way it's done.
It's not. And, at a time in our nation's history where we are focused on saving democracy, it is absolutely not what we want to do. And, for the first time in U.S. history, the Republicans, so my opponent does have something in common with the Republicans, which is they've announced that there will be no debating next time around, that they will only have their forums in-house. And so that sounds a lot like my opponent, who has also made a unilateral decision that she will not be having any debate. So it's unfortunate, but we keep moving forward.
That's why we wanted, I'm so happy you came. That's why we wanted
Absolutely.
you to come, because I look at your ballot, there wasn't enough room on here for all of your accomplishments.
That's true.
So educate us first. I know you've been in politics about 20 years.
That's right.
So what do you say to people that say, we don't know who Jan Hope Hamilton is? What do you say?
My work has never been about people knowing who I am, first of all. My work has been about affecting change and seeing tangible results, because that's what we need. A lot of times, we typically over-index as a people on the word fighter.
Yeah.
We're all fighting. We're fighting,
Yeah.
For our families. We're fighting for our children. We're fighting for our communities. We are all fighters.
Mm-hmm.
We have to level it up.
Okay.
And we have to know how to fight. And we need that expectation of our leaders, right? To know how to fight and to then deliver results. And that's what I've been doing for 20 plus years.
And you've been in the background. I sort of like people that work
Absolutely.
in the background, and then all of a sudden when it's time for you to march forward.
That's right.
So why did you decide to run? That had to be a big decision for you.
Well, I decided to run after serving as chief of staff to Congressman Mark Vesey.
Oh, okay.
And, for African Americans, when we talk about the role of chief of staff and ledge director and comms director, your communications director, only 30% of that number on the entire Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., of 435 members of Congress are African American.
Say that again.
So
say that louder this time.
Absolutely.
Wow, 430.
There are senior roles in Congress, right? Because listen, no one person can do it themselves, right? So when you elect a member of Congress, they hire a staff. They need help, right? They need somebody to sit down and do the work, right?
That's exactly.
That's
right.
how it
That's
goes.
Yeah.
And so when we talk about those highest levels of staffers, you have your chief of staff, who is the highest level, and then you'll have a legislative director, and then you have a communications director.
Wow.
Only 30% of staffers on the Hill that fall into those categories are African American.
30% out of 400 and how many?
35 members of Congress.
435 members
That's
of
right.
Congress.
So
So how big is your staff? Once you get to Washington, how many staff members?
It depends, right? You have some discretion on how many people that you hire. It's based on an MRA on the budget that comes out every year, the members' budget.
Okay.
So, there are some people who will elect to hire a chief of staff and a comms director, a ledge director, and then maybe 2 ledge assistants or 3. It just, you can sort of, decide and use your own, options about who exactly and how many exactly you want to hire. But it is very important to have an office and to have a district director. And I do have to take time to just say, really important, another thing that definitely differs me from my opponent Crockett in this race is that I have opened a Washington, D.C. office for a member of Congress. I am the only candidate in this race that has served in Congress, but I have opened up a Washington office as well as a Dallas office and a Fort Worth office. Unlike my opponent, who when she won to be a state rep, she's a first-term state rep, she elected
A first term, did you say first term?
First-term state rep. She's been in office on the state level under 2 years, and she elected not to open a district office. She elected not to have a district director. So right now what's happening is that I'm receiving a lot of support now that people understand there's a runoff out of her district. And so they tell me, look, we've seen her on TV, but we don't see her here. That's of concern. But, my focus when we were in the midst of, figuring out how those hires would look, the congressman and I, we sat down and we talked about that, right? And the first thing that we knew we wanted is we wanted the staff to look like the district.
Okay.
Diversity.
Good point.
And you got diversity in District 30.
Absolutely.
I'm reading the card. My guest is Jan Hope Hamilton. We have Lady Charles back. I like calling her Lady Charles, but she's also a pastor. And I'm reading Hope's card. She's on the cover with the president, who is doing a marvelous job. But Joe Biden, in our opinion, is doing an excellent job as a leader. All we really have to do is remember what we had, and you'll understand what I'm saying. But Jan is going to Washington. We want you to vote for her. We're going to talk about voting. On your card, you say you helped save 24,000 jobs after the economic downturn. What are you talking about?
So, Congressman Mark Vesey was elected to Congress November 2012.
Okay.
He was inaugurated, he was sworn in January 3rd of 2013. So, there are two major things that happened during that first year of his service as I was his chief of staff. One was that the voting rights were struck down, essentially by the Supreme Court, Section 4 and 5, basically nullifying, and it sort of took the teeth out of the Voting Rights Act, and we can get back to that in a second.
Okay.
And the second thing was that we had hard times. We were in an economic downturn.
That's right.
And
That's right.
American Airlines desperately needed the merger to go through. They were merging with another airline. And at the time, we were sort of having some push and pull within the Obama administration along the lines of the urgency of this merger to happen, why we were in such desperate need for this merger to happen. And that's when, I have to say, Congressman Mark Vesey really stepped up, and I worked alongside of him to do many things. One, we reached across the aisle to Republicans and we said, hey, listen, this is not partisan. We're talking about 24,000 jobs in the DFW Metroplex.
That's right.
This is people coming home being able to put food on their table or not.
Right.
What are we going to do? So we worked together with them. I worked with the other chiefs of staff and some members of Congress. We worked inside of the Texas delegation, and outside of the Texas delegation as well. We brought in TWU, our union brothers and sisters, and I led the organization of a fly-in at the steps on the Capitol to say, look, we gotta save these jobs.
Right.
Yes.
And we did, and we saved 24,000 jobs. And those are the types of things that we want from our leaders, right? From our elected officials.
Right.
When we need them most, we expect that they stand up.
And they need chief of staffs like you that know how to operate.
Thank you.
And how to move. Well, that's really important. I remember John Lewis when you said the voting rights, because he died, I think, went to his grave talking about voting rights. So it's happy to hear that somebody picks up that mantle and continue to move it forward. Jan is answering questions for us because she's running for Congress. Voting date for the runoff is May 24th. The second thing that's on your card, you led President Joe Biden's primary campaign in Texas to defeat who. Yeah! That's something we're all happy about.
Yes.
So tell us, how did that come about?
That was really challenging for me. maybe one day I'll talk about it, you know, in full. We don't have enough time today, and I don't think it's the right time in general. But I will say that, you know, we had 20 candidates or whatever the number was.
22 candidates,
But,
actually,
you know,
to be
yeah.
exact.
And in the beginning, when everybody started, you know, talking about who was going to run and what the teams would look like, I got a call, and I was asked to be the statewide director for Joe Biden. And
See, nobody knows that. When we, I did not know that. When people talk about who is this woman, well, all you got to do is tune into my show,
and then you'll find out.
and then you'll find out. But secondly, we're on Facebook, and I really need you to spread the word, because when the primaries happened, what year are we talking about? What year are you talking
This
about?
is
2018?
No. This is what year are we in, y'all?
2022.
Isn't it so
It's going
difficult?
quick.
The election happened in 2020.
Okay.
November 2020.
Okay.
So when the primary happened, I got the call in, I guess it was 2019. And that was for the first round of it. So we have to kind of think about it in that way. So I got the call at the end of the year in preparation for our primary. Because remember, we're a Super Tuesday state.
That's
we're
right.
an early state.
That's right.
So we have our March primary. So we were before the entire country. That's a lot of pressure, right? Because you're really deciding. I mean, we got the electoral votes here. We
do have the electoral
really
votes.
helped him clinch the nomination. And this was at a time when we had the wonderful, beautiful, smart, and talented Kamala Harris, right? The
Yeah,
vice president.
we already had her.
Who was also in that first round.
That's right.
We had Beto, who's a dear friend. He was a freshman member of Congress with Congressman Mark Vesey. So
Yeah.
they came in as freshmen together. I know him well. So those were two people who I actually knew well. I knew Kamala Harris from her days with Howard University.
And that's very, very important.
Yeah.
It's also important because we're getting history from Jane Hope Hamilton, because we have to have people in office that know the background, and we also have to have people in office that have worked in the background. But I'm just curious, what happened when you got the phone call? You say you got the phone call.
So
We're
I
talking
guess-
about, let me remind you, led President Joe Biden's primary campaign in Texas to defeat him.
So I get this call, and you know, and listen, I get this call, and it was really interesting because my son, Austin, he wasn't quite 2 just yet.
Okay.
And I was working this really high-powered job for what was a startup, which is no longer a startup. It's a benefit corporation that brings down the cost of higher education because it's online. We build out online programs for colleges and universities. And I was also very focused on my own 501c3, the Barbara Jordan Leadership Institute, which is all about empowering Black women in their communities where they are for their communities. And so I was really focused on those two things. I get this call, and they said, hey, you know, we want you to serve as statewide director for Joe Biden. And I'm like, I can't do it.
Really?
I can't do
How
it.
long did that last?
That's the instinctive. Instinctive. You know, I'm looking at Barbara Jordan Leadership, and we're gearing up, and it's looking wonderful, and I'm excited. It's my baby.
Right.
And it really came out of a place where I got accustomed to being at these tables, very high-powered rooms with people who didn't look like me. And they would have me there not expecting for me to speak or have an opinion. And so I said, you know what? We don't need that table. I know how to raise money. I know how to mobilize the community. We'll do it ourselves. So I said no. So fast forward, I get a call from Congressman Vesey.
Okay.
And then I get a call from Mark Stanley, who's now an ambassador now.
Okay.
And then I get a call from Congressman Vela. And then I get a call. And so I say, yes. I prayed about it.
So it didn't last long. The no answer didn't last long.
The no didn't. I mean, the no
like,
was on day 1. Day 2, I was a yes.
Yes.
But I talked to him. I prayed about it. I talked to my husband about it. And you know, and then I talked to one of the board members who's a board member of Barbara Jordan Leadership Institute, and I said, hey, listen, where we are in this country right now, I think this is the best use of my time. You know, I
Right.
need you to come in full blast and take this thing over. She agreed. That's Lorraine Bearable. And so I said yes, and you know, I said, hey, the only commitment I need from the campaign is the following. I need the resources and I need the staff.
Staff.
The one thing I like that Ms. Hamilton has stated is
Mhm.
that they called her
Right.
and they wanted you.
Right.
Absolutely.
And you produced results
Thank you.
And that's a good key word too, because somebody knew she could do it.
that can produce the results.
That's the
Yes.
person we want in Washington.
Yes.
I pick up on, because I've had this community show for 25 years. It's called CAN. And with CAN, we have always gone into the communities. We've been picking up homeless one year, one of the greatest experiences I've had. But we've also been able to work with people, the community, and all of the cultures. And when I think about this runoff, this is our paramount priority at the moment with community affairs. Jan Hope Hamilton is running against Jasmine Crockett. And I'm reading all of this, and I want you to know all about this. What is the website? What is your website?
JaneHopeHamilton.com.
JanHopeHamilton.com. But people know when you can get things done.
That's right.
So we're going back to the phone call. But then in this phone call, I can hear women now saying, she's got a 3-year-old. You got how many children?
I have 2 children. I have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old.
How does this work, Jane?
You know, I'm married now,
Okay.
but I was once a single mother. I unfortunately got a divorce when my daughter was 1 month. I was the chief of staff living in Washington, D.C. Very high-powered job, working on a hill. And
Wow.
But you know, as women, we find a way or we make a way. And so
I need you to say that again.
hey, you know,
It happens.
it happens. And so it was really, when you think about God in your life,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and
Important.
you understand about grace and mercy and how his hand is on your life.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know what I was going to do. She was 1 month. And but I knew what I had to do. I knew what I needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have the answers. So when I talk about on the campaign trail, housing costs,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
healthcare costs,
Right.
child care, I live that. I live that. And one of the most expensive places to live
It's Washington, D.C.
is Washington, D.C. All while maintaining a home here in Dallas. And so, you know, those are the things that life can sometimes bring you, and it's about what do you do and how you handle it. So now that I have a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old, my life has always been about a calendar, a schedule, logistics.
yes,
you know,
yes.
I need to know, what time do we wake up?
Mm-hmm.
What time do we eat? What time do we go to sleep? And my kids, they know when the unscripted comes. The unscripted is a Friday night. The unscripted is a Saturday.
So you're really training them early
Hey.
on what life is really like.
My 7-year-old has a calendar. And she is serious about her calendar, okay? And she says, wait a minute, mommy. You said on this date at this time. But you know, the thing is this. When you want something and when you're goal-oriented, it's very hard for someone to tell me it can't be done.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard
Mhm.
because I've watched my mother, right, and her mother and my parents. And we have so many examples that let us know
That it can be
that
done.
it can be
Yeah.
done
Yeah.
with God's help.
Let
So,
me,
so it's okay.
Miss Hamilton, I'd like to interrupt because
Please.
you've said a lot.
Why don't you just interrupt?
I mean, I'm sitting here gripping my seat, listening to how much you have accomplished
Yes, yes.
as an African American woman that tells the whole nation, no matter what you're dealing with,
That's right.
your
Mhm.
experiences, you've hit the bottom, that we can survive. Now that's all women,
Yes.
but we're really reaching out and talking to the African American women, and you have been a
A light.
amazing example to the African American race that you can come from the bottom and come on top with the help of God. I felt chills when you mentioned God, because we cannot get anywhere without Him.
Oh, no.
That's right.
He opens the doors for us. He gives us favor with the people. And then He calls things to work where men have said no.
You can't work.
That's
But
right.
I think the important thing
That's
that
right.
she said that I didn't know what I was going to do. It's okay not to know.
That's right.
And I don't know why we think we have to have a script for everything, because sometimes there is no script.
That's right.
Jan Hope Hamilton is a candidate for Congress. If you're just joining us, we're talking about her life, how she got there, what she has done, and what I love about her is a couple of things. But she was a chief of staff in the background, working to make things happen for Joe Biden and for VC. Now she decided to step out. Now, isn't that a trail that women follow? I mean, look at Judge Jackson. I need you to address Judge Jackson for a minute. She was a lawyer that some attorneys agreed don't want to cast cases. She was what is that word? For lawyers that work at the bottom of the totem pole. And now she's a Supreme Court justice. We have talked about this a little bit, but I want Jan to give us some of the your thoughts on it. How are you a lawyer?
I'm not.
Okay, but what do you think about her? What inspiration did that give you? You're already a chief of staff. You're already on the Hill. You're already working for a congressman, and now here you are in a runoff.
You know, look, when she sat down to testify, when she was called to testify,
Yeah.
you know what? She was already a Supreme Court justice.
She sure was.
She was already a Supreme Court justice. The thing is this about titles, right?
Let's go there.
Let's go. Yeah.
Men will give you a title, but God
We'll give you a title.
has already given you what's
Yes.
yours.
Yay.
And she knew
Amen,
that.
amen,
Now
amen.
going through that process, it's hard, right?
Yeah.
Because you know you have to take all of those things that come with it, and it's a lot of scrutiny. And but we all know that story. We've all been there.
Been there. Thank you.
And the thing that was so wonderful, you know, and Booker said, you know, I'm not gonna let them take away our joy. But for Black women, while it hurt us, it also helped us.
Right.
Right, because it confirmed what we deal with every single day.
Right.
We
That's
all identified with her sitting there and having to be composed, having to be calm, and having to work against every single stereotype that is thrown our way.
Everyone. They didn't leave out any of them.
They didn't leave out any of them.
No,
And to know that she's sitting there and she is the smartest in the room.
Yeah.
And that the people who are questioning her aren't even fit to sit at her table.
I hadn't thought about that. I had not thought about that.
So,
Great,
you know,
real grace under fire.
Real grace under fire. So, you know, for a lot of us, it was inspiring. It was confirmation. And it was, unfortunately, what we expected it to be in some ways.
She is Jan Hope Hamilton. She's running for U.S. Congress. I think she's the most qualified candidate. The election runoff is, especially District 30, is May 24th.
Yes.
And so you go to the polls early, May 16th. Do I have that right?
May 16th through the 20th, yes.
And you can go to our website. I've got to take a little bit of a break, and we're going to come right back with Jan Hope Hamilton and the lady pastor, for all of the lady pastors that are out there. It's Lady Charles. I'll be right back. Thank you. That's kind of information. If you have a comment about Jan Hope Hamilton, these shows run endlessly. And I say that because I have people that will call and say, I saw, it's what you have on. Like you have on a pink dress. I said, I had that dress on last month. So it's not something I had on. But that's good press. And my social media is powerfully wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. We appreciate your call in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm here for you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to remember that now.
Yes.
All right.
The election runoff is May 24th. Let's talk a little bit about the current governor. How will you interact with governors as a member of Congress?
Well, we'll be replacing Governor
Oh,
Abbott
really?
with Beto.
Yeah.
So-
Okay. That makes. I like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Right, Beto?
Right. That's really good. We have to send him a copy of the show. Have you had any?
Absolutely.
You've had some interactions with
Oh,
him
yeah.
already.
I know him well. Congressman VC, and at the time, Beto was a congressman. They came in the same year in 2013, so they were freshman members of Congress together.
Wow.
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
So I worked with his chief of staff, David, for many years, and the beauty about Beto is that he's gonna work hard.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna do the work. He's gonna keep on fighting. And when you think about Texas, right? Texas is a place that on the map it's a red state. But what we know in terms of the numbers, in terms of the census and the population, it's a non-voting state.
It's a what?
Non-voting state. We've got to get our numbers up, meaning that, we have the
Oh,
numbers.
the people don't go
Yeah,
vote.
well, they don't go vote at the numbers we need. All we need is, let's rewind. Let's talk about when he ran against Cruz.
Okay.
He lost that race by 200,000 people. That's nothing. That is absolutely nothing. So this race, the governor's race, that we'll be having in November, it's really going to come down to turnout, right? There are more of us than it is of them. And so we just need to get out the vote, and we just need to really stay focused on that. And I do believe that Beto will be the governor.
Why don't
So,
we vote?
I'm going to say this.
Why don't we
I
vote?
hear a lot of people blaming people not voting on the voter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't quite fully agree with that.
Okay.
With the Barbara Jordan Leadership Institute, we did a program where we simply informed the voter, because we're a 501c3.
Okay.
And all we did was we just they're called unlikely voters. So Trump got elected. When Trump got elected, one of the things that happened is that the voter that is called the unlikely voter, this person is not polled ever. This person is very
Hallelujah.
rarely,
That's
very,
right.
very rarely, no, in general, an unlikely voter, Democrat
Yes.
or Republican, just in general, is someone who is not ever polled.
Mhm.
It's someone who is very rarely
Move closer to the mic. Does she need to be closer?
Yeah.
Please.
It's someone who is very rarely communicated with, right?
True.
Well, guess what? He was talking to them, and he was communicating with them, and we saw that. And what has to happen when we talk about increasing voter turnout,
Mm-hmm.
we have to speak to the voter.
Yes.
What's on their minds? What's on their hearts?
Exactly.
What
Yeah.
is it that they need? What is it that they want? And we have to do a better job at that. In Texas, it's really hard because it's so big. That means it's also so costly. We've got these
Good
media
point.
markets
Good
here are
point.
so, we're
Yeah.
on the media markets are so expensive. So, one of the things that we have to realize is that this is a partnership. It's a partnership between, our everyday people, our elected officials, and we've got to ask of elected officials who are in safe seats for them to run like they're not safe. In order to get Beto elected, we need every single elected official
Mm-hmm.
to run like somebody's on their heels.
Yes.
Like they have an opponent, drum the beat in their
Yes.
districts. And we can do it. We can do it. That's how we do it.
That's
And
how
so
we do it.
I'm very hopeful.
It could be done because we have Jane Hope. That HOPE says something to us.
Yes.
So it's going to happen because we got the right person in the seat.
And as the next member of Congress, I would be delighted to be on the trail
Mm-hmm.
with Beto.
All
Would be, oh, that would be a ticket.
Yes.
That is going to be a good ticket. You mentioned something that I have been very vocal about for the last probably 25 years. How many times have you been polled? Who calls you and say, my name is Ella Smith and I want your opinion about something? Because I am of the opinion that we are not polled at all. There are certain zip codes that are not polled. There are certain states that are not polled. So Daryl Blair, I'll put his name, and I are working on something where we either have our own polling system or a polling system that works in the African American community, because we are not called
We need that, yes.
about anything. And then all of a sudden you hear that Joe Biden's rating is down 33%. That is not a true fact of the numbers. That is a distorted view of the numbers when you're not polling all of the people. But he did win the race. That's why he's president. So if you're not polled, I want to hear from you. And I'm easy to find. I'm very easy to find. It's Esther. It's Esther Davis at 214-376-9000. And you can just Google us. That's probably the best way. Google told me that. It was so funny what Google tells you, isn't it? My guest is Jan Hope Hamilton. She is a candidate for U.S. Congress, a very, very important piece of our history right now that is going on. I did have a question for you that I gave to, I don't know where it is right now, but it's like, I know what you're fighting. Yes, you know, I write
Your
everywhere.
notes.
My notes are back here. Hi there.
Absolutely.
What are you fighting for? Hold on one second. What are you fighting for? I mean, what is your gut?
Listen, it's what I've been fighting for 20 plus years. I'm fighting against the status quo. You know, we are told as a community to accept things the way they are. I've never accepted things the way they are. We don't realize it sometimes who we are in Dallas County. We are trailblazers. We are leaders in this state, and we are leaders in the nation. 10 years before the Black Lives Matter movement really launched, you know, you're on the campaign trail and people talk about voting rights, right? Well, I sued the governor of Texas twice to protect our voting rights and won in 2011.
Wow.
And we talk about criminal justice reform. Well, think about what we did right here in 2006. I led the effort. I was the campaign manager for the Dallas County Coordinated Campaign Effort.
Wow.
That's when we had Craig Watkins on the top of the ticket running for DA, and everyone said to him, oh no, you shouldn't run again. You just lost in 2002. And then we had all those women who were lawyers at the time running to be judges.
That's
who
right.
Many of them still on the bench today.
That's
that
right.
was criminal justice reform. We elected right here in 2006. Think about that. In 2006.
You are right.
Right here, we elected the first African American district attorney in the state of Texas. I was 28 years old. And you know how many people said, oh, that can't be done. It's impossible. This is Dallas, Texas. George Bush is coming home. It's already home, and it's not going to happen. We flipped this county from Republican to Democrat. Why? Because we put hope in action.
Ooh, I like that.
We called our neighbors. We had people in all across Dallas County that had yard signs in their yard. They said, had enough? Vote Democrat.
We put hope in office.
Yes.
What? Jan Hope Hamilton is in the runoff. Jan Hope Hamilton is in a runoff for Eddie Bernice Johnson's seat, District 30. It is one of the largest, most diverse districts in the United States. We want her in Washington, D.C., and she'll invite us all to the inauguration.
Yes. It's going to be a party.
We'll all get to. You went to the White House for the
Easter egg
something?
roll.
Oh, what did the children think about that?
You know, that was such an amazing experience for me because I talk about my children a lot, you know, and Sloan, my 7-year-old who's in the first grade, you know, she saw mommy, you know, my 3-year-old didn't get it as much because he's just a baby, but she saw mommy working really hard, you know, up early in the morning and didn't know when I slept, you know, and she was able to put it together. Seeing mommy work for Biden and Kamala Harris, and then going to the White House and seeing them there. It was like a click for her. Oh, this is what you were doing. And for me, that was just such a beautiful moment to know that my daughter can see that your hard work as an individual, you don't worry about what everyone else is doing. You stay focused. Can really bring about change. And so that was just a moment that like I will never forget. It was wonderful. Now I will tell you it was a little rainy and cold, so she wasn't thrilled about that. But other than that, we had a great time.
Oh, wonderful.
We are going to wrap up this session. These things go by so fast. So we're going to give you the last 2 minutes. This is your camera right here to talk directly into the camera. You've already told us so much because we answered most of the questions. One of the questions was, of course, how do you manage children or wife in a household? And traveling back and forth. It's easy to do. It's just management. And I love your story about the primaries that happen in Texas. I think Texas is a purple state. We just don't have people going out to vote. So if we can move from purple to blue, because Dallas County is blue. Are we still blue in Dallas County?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I hate to ask that question.
Yes, we are.
So if Dallas County can do it,
bluer.
we can do all of it. And what she has done was the reason we asked her to come on the show, because I get tired of people saying, well, what has she done? The candidate, the other candidate, Jasmine Crockett, is also in the runoff. We do have some problems or some real concerns with the amount of money that was put into her campaign. Those of us that have been around longer than 2 decades understand how campaigns are funded. But in District 30, and if you see your candidate on television more than you see them in your yard and on your street, that is a problem. So we want our candidates to come into the communities, talk to the people. Television just simply tells us that you're paying $6,000 to $8,000 for a 30-second commercial. That's all it tells us. You've got 30 seconds to tell you how wonderful you are, and I'll have to go away.
I'm running for Congress, and I'm here asking for your support and your vote because we can't say no to status quo. We deserve better. Our communities deserve better. I've been serving Dallas area, North Texas, as a staffer for 20 plus years. And my life experience, it really does inform why I'm running. I am a survivor of police brutality. I was almost a statistic when we talk about Texas maternal mortality. I survived, thank God. And I was once a single mother dealing with the high cost of health care, housing, and child care. My life experiences will inform me, and they do inform me. But I'm a fighter with results. I am so proud to say that I led the campaign in 2006 when we elected the first African American district attorney in the state of Texas, along with a slate of judges who are still serving today. In 2011, I sued the governor of Texas to protect our voting rights twice and won. And most recently, I was the statewide director for President Joe Biden in the Democratic presidential primary. What this runoff is coming down to is my body of work versus my opponent's branding of herself. This race is coming down to a show horse versus a work horse. Wow. This race is coming down to my opponent's rhetoric versus my results. Please do not let the TV commercials fool you. I am here for you, the voter, and I hope that you will vote for me and elect me as your next member of Congress to District 30. Thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you very much from the Esther Davis Show and all of our marvelous fans around the country. In the meantime, let's just be good to each other. We'll see you next time. Thank you.